Every year, I have to relearn hurricane topsouls, usually just at a skate park, but it really is one of those tricks that can drift away from you if you don't actively keep up with them. Anyway, as I made my annual pilgrimage, I got to thinking, what are the best hurricane topsouls ever done in rollerblading history? So I started a list and I asked the rollerblading community for help. And as always, you guys didn't disappoint. Today, I'm going to share that list with you. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, a hurricane topsoul is a 360 topsoul, spinning away from the obstacle. It takes a lot of commitment since it's a blind spin through most of the rotation, and it requires very precise body placement on the lock-in. But as the fine folks at Winter Clash can verify, it's one of the best looking and best feeling tricks in rollerblading. Seriously, these guys know what I'm talking about. Everybody loves a good hurricane topsoul. One quick note, these hurricane topsouls are in no particular order, and I tried to include a variety of different obstacles and variations on the trick. I'm sure I missed some, so feel free to leave me a comment down below and let me know what hurricane topsouls need to be added to this list. Anyway, let's spin our way into the first video. First, we'll start things out with the best hurricane topsoul ever done at a skate park. Now this one's a little bit tricky because I absolutely love the Brian Aragon versus Chris Haffey park battle at the Razors training facility. I mean, it was two legendary skaters, countless amazing tricks, and one piece of timeless advice from Brian Aragon.
Watch the hat, player. That wall's tricky.
But I gotta give this one to Franky Morales. This park edit that he filmed in 2013 at Paramount Park is literally perfect. And I do mean literally perfect. The cinematography is amazing, the tricks, the style. It's just honestly one of the best park edits I've ever seen. Now, Franky actually does a couple hurricane topsouls in this edit, including a hurricane topsoul up a ledge, which he then proceeds to 540 alley-oop soul to alley-oop topsoul down. But the best trick in this one is the ender, when Franky goes back royale up a really steep ledge to transfer disaster hurricane topsoul around a bowl corner. As a park skater, this is a trick that's stuck with me for the last 10 years. Our next hurricane topsoul on the list comes from Josiah Blee in Secret Project number 2. Now, Josiah is criminally underrated when it comes to skating, and this video part was from 2018. There are tons of amazing tricks in this video. In particular, I'm a big fan of Josiah's switch-ups. Now, some of these tricks in the video I've never seen before, like 360 negative soul to 360 out, or 540 alley-oop top horn down a handrail. However, when it comes to his hurricane topsoul, this one has an added element of danger as he grinds through a number of caps. And although he slides right over them, grabbing the rail or missing a lock with your shin or your ribs could end in catastrophe. This is a place where you definitely have to put that Brian Aragon advice to use. Anyway, this is one of the most satisfying sounding hurricane topsouls I've ever witnessed, and I love it. Sticking with rails, let's travel to Spain for one of the best opening lines ever. City Fade is a relatively new VOD from 2021, promoting USD skates and featuring Carlos Bernal. Now, it's a beautifully filmed video and instantly put Carlos onto a short list of my favorite skaters. He skates with so much character and energy and intensity in this part, and it really is nothing but hammers. One of the very first tricks, though, is a handrail line with a right foot 360 topsoul, followed by a left foot hurricane topsoul. Both of these tricks independently are extremely difficult, especially with the awkward angle and tight spacing between these rails. And it's just an amazing trick, and Carlos definitely made an opening statement with this line. Shifting gears for a moment, let's hurricane topsoul some ledges. Now this one was tough to choose. There's Brian Bruno in Abstract Art 2, and Connor O'Brien in Teach Them Well, both of which are executed flawlessly. Seriously, these guys deserve some sort of award for throwing hurricane topsouls on such deadly obstacles. I'm going to have to give this one to Mark Voida, though, for this absolute monster ledge in his genre is dead profile. Mark goes full commit on this one, bringing in speed on the approach, and an additional stair set to gap immediately afterwards. Mark is just yet another example of one of those skaters who deserve way more recognition and respect for his work in blading over all these years. You gotta watch this edit if you haven't already. Ian McLeod is arguably the most talented ledge skater of all time, and this is my favorite section he's ever released. Filmed and edited by Quinn Feldman, this section is a cinematic masterpiece and includes all the technical tricks that you'd expect from Ian. There's even a Street 900, which is pretty epic in and of itself. Anyway, the very first trick is a hurricane topsoul on a bank to ledge with a 180 back to flat. This is one of those spots that looks fun on camera, but I bet is way more difficult to skate in person. Interestingly, the very next trick in this video is an even steeper bank to ledge that Ian does 360 topsoul on, spinning the other direction. It's a great way to show off the technical dexterity that Ian is so well known for. Leading the Blind might be my favorite video of all time. It features a star-studded cast of skaters, including Chris Haffey. Now, you don't need me to tell you how amazing Chris Haffey is at skating. His skating speaks for itself, and this hurricane topsoul is simply one example of that. Now, according to first-hand sources, this hurricane topsoul through the kink was first try. Yep, just one try for that long hold. I was told that Chris had a bet with Conor O'Brien on it, and if history has taught us anything, it's that you should never bet against Chris Haffey. But, to be fair, this isn't the last we'll hear of Conor O'Brien in this video either. As I mentioned earlier, Conor O'Brien is no stranger to big tricks. He's done some of the biggest disasters, spins, and stunts in blading history. Personally, he's one of my favorite skaters, and his sections in Teach Them Well in the One video are still ones that I watch regularly before skating. Rewinding the clock a bit though, back to his VG days, Conor put down a hurricane topsoul to true topsoil on a drop rail. This has to be one of the most fearless and reckless tricks I've ever seen. I really can't imagine looking down the drop and spinning blindly away from the rail, but like I said, definitely one of the greatest hurricane topsouls of all time. Next up is this three-piece from Jake Dotson in his 2020 section. Now, if you followed Jake Dotson, you know that he is one of the most technically proficient skaters out there and has been for a long, long time. And for many people, this section reminded the world of what Jake is capable of on his skates. In this section, Jake begins with an outspin topsoul to hurricane topsoul on a kink rail, which is a trick I don't think I've ever seen anyone do before. Later in the section though, he adds two more hurricane topsouls, one switch and one regular on a down rail. I've watched this section multiple times, and I still can't quite tell which one he's more comfortable with and which one is the switch one. This one is probably the most iconic hurricane topsoul ever done from one of the most iconic skaters in the history of rollerblading, Brian Aragon. Now, it's kind of crazy to think about, but the Razor's Game Theory video is over a decade old, originally debuting in the early 2010s. Aragon's whole section is ridiculous, but his closing trick, a fakie 540 hurricane topsoul on a handrail, was legendary. Looking at the raw footage, Aragon actually warmed up by landing a perfect hurricane topsoul first try, and then only took 2 attempts to get down this fakie 540 hurricane topsoul. My favorite part of this clip, though, is the presence of so many other skaters reacting to the trick. It's this type of energy that I love to see in rollerblading. Finally, we'll wrap this up by taking a look at 2 iconic disaster hurricane topsouls that are sharing the top spot. Now, the first one comes from Julian Baugh in the Razor's video Ego. Julian Baugh was an absolute wrecking ball in this era of skating, with some of the biggest gaps and technical tricks in the entire game. I particularly appreciate this massive gap which Julian effortlessly 540s in both directions. However, the big finish to his Ego section was this disaster hurricane topsoul at the end, filmed from 2 different angles. To put the magnitude of this trick into perspective, Ego came out in 2005, meaning this trick was done almost 20 years ago. The other disaster hurricane topsoul, and my personal favorite hurricane topsoul of all time, happened live at a street competition in Germany in 2011. Cyril Daniel has done several massive disasters and been featured twice in my most iconic tricks in rollerblading history video series. One was the disaster 450 back royale in Barcelona, but the other was this disaster hurricane topsoul on a massive kink rail. This is one of the wildest tricks I've ever seen, and the fact that Cyril landed it in a competition setting makes it all the more epic. Alright, I know this was a top 10 countdown, but we'll throw in one more just as a bonus. Chris Farmer. Now, Chris has been doing hurricane topsouls forever. Whether it's his line in VG19 profile, or this hurricane topsoul to rail transfer topsoul, in Life Plus Volume 3. He's just always made these types of tricks look easy, which isn't fair to the rest of us. However, until just a few years ago, I never would have expected to see a solo session Hurricane Topsoul filmed with nothing more than a tripod, but that's exactly what Chris gave us. In his 2021 edit, Chris posted a series of raw clips, most of which were self-filmed, including the most casual and effortless-looking Hurricane Topsoul I've ever seen. He captured it from 2 angles, which implies that he maybe did it twice? Either way, Farmer is an absolute legend and one of the best to ever strap up a pair of skates. Anyway, guys, that's our look at the best Hurricane Topsouls in rollerblading history. Again, let me know which ones I missed down in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and subscribing for more. I'm Butch Lehman of Roll, Minnesota, and I'm gonna go get to work on my Hurricane Topsouls. Till next time, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and get out there and do some rollerblading. Take care, everybody.